Batman and family are in the home stretch as they battle Hugo Strange's nightmare monster men. What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This iRate review is going to be about Detective Comics 942, the last part of Night of the Monster Men. In this final part of the crossover event, we see the entire Bat family kind of jumping together to really help out the citizenry, and we've seen the, Spoiler and Orphan really handle themselves very well in the caves previously against this very odd kind of muck. We've seen the redemption of Gotham Girl and Nightwing, and Gotham Girl kind of hops out into the background. She takes a back seat in this book and isn't really seen from much. The real focus tends to be on Batman, Hugo Strange, and Nightwing. And that's interesting for a Detective Comics book because they haven't really been prominent players in any of these books previously. However, it kind of underlies the overall scope of the story. And what we see in this is that Batman is ultimately summoned to his final confrontation with Hugo Strange. And I understand that there's psychological aspects and then he's done some sort of psychoanalysis on Batman, but it feels really unintuitive. It feels very laborious. It's a lot of work to kind of get to this conclusion because a lot of the stuff wasn't really necessarily well laid out plans. The story needed a lot of exposition, and Nightwing is really the source of all that exposition inside this storyline, ultimately going to the point where he dives into the belly of the beast to attack the inner child. And everything is some sort of sophisticated metaphor that's done by the smart DNA, and there's a whole lot of effort that goes into it for a really lackluster kind of payoff, because the ultimate confrontation comes down between Batman and Hugo Strange. And I was looking for, with Hugo Gaines, the big, beefy, burly doctor that we've got here, I was expecting to see some sort of physical confrontation, and ultimately, I was really disappointed. The one thing that I wanted to engage on at a higher level, I wanted to have some psychological aspects, I wanted to have some physicality, I wanted to see this thing kind of come to a head in a great and appropriate way. Unfortunately, there was nothing like that to be found. We see Hugo Strange sitting on his throne of psychology books with his own personal bat symbol emblazoned behind him, wearing the Batman suit that we saw in the conclusion of Nightwing. And how does everything end? Clayface suffocating the ventilation? Talk about something that was, already kind of average in terms of a storyline and a very easy kind of excuse to get out of the situation. I realize, suicide suit, blah, 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 blah. But it just underlines the fact that this story had so much more potential than where we kind of set it about to be. The way that it ended is considerably below where I feel like it could have ended. There was a whole lot of potential in this particular story, and it just didn't quite find where it needed to go in order to achieve that greatness. The art is consistent across all the books, which is a great thing. It's always been a little bit of touch and go in these detective versions of the books, but it's still not anything that I would consider bad by any stretch of the imagination, and the teams have really kind of come together to create this conclusion to this overall story arc. But I have to say that I am really excited to see where this goes after Night of the Monster Men. And James Tynion has already said that this is going to influence where he's going with Detective Comics a little bit going forward, so it's not something that's just going to be easily glossed over. But as far as an overall storyline, it's average at best, but the best thing that comes out of this is that we've got our first crossover out of the way, and we're going back to great individual storylines in all these three main titles. So Night of the Monster Men might not necessarily be what I expected. It was an okay read, and I understand that there's some sophisticated levels of the plot. I totally get it. But they don't connect. It's like a phantom punch. It didn't really deliver the impact that I was hoping for. So that's my review of Detective Comics 942 and the final arc of Night of the Monster Men. But I want to know what you guys thought about this book as well, so hit me up in the comments down below. As always, if you like what you see, hit that like button, and don't forget to hit subscribe right there to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.